Welcome back to another episode of Affair, Root Cause and Fix. And just wanted to remind everyone, seek professional help if you feel that you may be victim of an affair. And you can expand this video's description to find a link to my book entitled Affair, Root Cause and Fix. It's available on Amazon, or you can just check the link within this video's description. Within this episode, we're going to talk about confronting a cheating spouse, or cheating partner for that matter. And it's it's a situation where it probably needs to be very well orchestrated. Because if someone confronts a partner and their feelings are not accurate, then what can result from that is that partner can feel that there are trust issues. So, it's important to properly gauge the situation and have a somewhat high level of confidence that cheating may be occurring before going down that path. And what I'm going to describe is, and again, this is episode 3 of my series, so if you haven't checked out the previous episodes, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and check those out sequentially. But this is episode 3. So when I made the discovery that, that something, much to my surprise, didn't seem to be right. My wife was, she was acting out a character. She had returned from a work trip a few days before, and I just had a really weird feeling. And, if you listen to my previous episode, episode 2, you knew that I had indicated that for no reason I had profiled the individual, that the work colleague that she had attended this convention with. So, I had my uncertainties there for no reason before the trip. And after that extended duration phone call in the driveway, I definitely had my uncertainties. So I knew that I had to act like I wasn't aware of something. And the fact that I had gone to the mailbox to check the mail at an odd hour of the night, I think that may have been that may have been what made my wife feel that I was probably on to something. But I felt that she knew me well enough to know that if I was on to something, that I'm not one to wait. If there's a good deal to be had, or there's something that needs to be fixed, I'm going to get right on it, and I'm going to drive it from start to finish. I'm not going to wait around. So the fact that I didn't really seem to express any sort of curiosity or uncertainty beyond asking who she was on the phone with and going to the mailbox at an odd hour, I think that she, you could tell she was extremely nervous, and, body language and just overall demeanor indicated that, that I felt that my assumption that something was off was a fair assumption. So, I didn't, that evening just went to sleep, acted like everything was, did my best to act like everything was normal. But while I was trying to go to sleep, I was devising my plan, because I knew a few things. And, one of those things, and, I stick to facts. I don't let opinions or assumptions skew my plan of attack. So what I thought about were the things that I knew. So I knew that she returned to the house at a certain time, and that was indicated by my security camera. So I knew that the car entered the driveway at a certain time. I knew that she was on the phone when I entered the driveway, in which I could see myself on the camera when I entered the driveway. And I knew that she abruptly hung up the phone call when I passed by her vehicle on the way to the mailbox. So, I had a timeline, and obviously I knew that the timestamps on my camera matched the time on my computer, which also matches the time on my phone and her phone. So that's how I knew I was going to approach this. The uncertainty I had was, how am I going to suddenly borrow, considering we use the same model phone, how am I going to discreetly borrow her phone and go to the call history without looking like I'm fishing for something? So I put a lot of thought into it that night. I put a lot of thought into it throughout the following day. And I knew that when I returned home, that I couldn't immediately approach the issue, that I had to just act normal and go about my routine. But I knew when we were watching TV later that night that I had to have an excuse to find the phone. So my excuse, we had some maintenance performed on our house, and it was a poor job, and I called to follow up, and they never called me back, and I was irritated, and she was aware of that, and I was aware of that. So before I escalated that issue with that repair company the following day, that I wanted to be sure that they didn't by chance call her phone and not call mine, because I didn't want to call a repair company and really be seemingly rude if they had indeed called her phone. So that was my excuse to borrow her phone. So I relayed, hey, can I check your phone? I just want to make sure they didn't call me yesterday. Of course, I wasn't looking for that. I immediately went to the call history during the timestamp from the previous night when her car entered the driveway and when she was, quote unquote, on the phone with her parents. And there were no active calls during that time, which indicated that call history had been deleted. So as soon as I saw that, she was watching me very closely, because I mean, obviously she knew she was guilty at this point, and she knew that she had a good feeling that I was onto something. And then I just, I didn't beat around the bush. I just cut to the chase and said, hey, so who were you talking to in the driveway last night? And she said, once again, her parents. And I said, well, why is their phone number not on your phone? And then she got really jittery and teary-eyed and this, that, and the other. And I said, this is your chance. You tell me the truth here, if you want, the best possible outcome. At that time, I didn't want to jump to assumptions that it was an affair or whatever. I didn't want to make those claims. I just wanted to leave it open-ended and just say, you tell me the truth. Something's up. And it took time, but finally I got the story to start coming out of her. And it was tough. It was tough to get it out, because I just said, something's not right. And she said, surprisingly, she came out with what she was saying was the truth immediately. That she was talking to some guy that she had met at the convention a few days before. So, and I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. So anyway, the conversation, I continued it, and I said, well, let's call this guy. And she said, well, I don't have his number or whatever. I said, and then I repeated the name, because I saw the name on the Bluetooth screen in her vehicle when I passed by the driveway. I said, oh, well, it's so-and-so. Let's give him a call. Looked it up in the phone. Sure enough, it was still in her phone, because she had not deleted that number yet. So she said, well, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, I don't care. I said, I'm sure he'll be thrilled to see your phone number pop up on his phone. So sure enough, after a lot of hesitation, she decides to call with him on speakerphone. She starts talking. He's all flirty, this, that, and the other. And then I come in the background. And I say, hey, so-and-so. I address him by his name. And you could tell he's shocked. And he's like, who is this? And I just said, I was over here talking to so-and-so, which was my wife, but I was just referring to her as, I guess, kind of a friend and that sort of thing, which kind of odd that, we've just been hanging out and randomly making phone calls at about 1 o'clock in the morning. But I said, and she was telling me about everything. And I said, oh, by the way, I met your wife at the show, and I was very impressed with the service that she was selling. And what's her name again? I forget. And just trying to fish to confirm if this guy was married, and sure enough, he was. So, I got what I wanted out of that, and of course, he probably wasn't a fool. He probably realized that something was kind of fishy. But as soon as he said that, and I said, "Oh, by the way," I said, "I'm not, I'm not so and so." I said, "I'm actually so and so's husband." and then the fear could be felt through the phone. I mean, it was a horrible experience, but it was an incredible experience because this person realized that they had not only been caught, but this person realized that a few days after, my wife returned home, that I had already found his number and I was already on the phone with him. So at that point, the confrontation was confirmed. Well, let me step back from that. At that point, the piece of confronting my wife was complete. I'd completed the confrontation, and at that point, things were starting to be confirmed. So subscribe to my channel, like this video, share with others, ring the bell icon to be notified when I post another video, and go ahead and tune in for the next episode, episode 4, to hear what happens next.